All right, welcome everybody. Welcome. We're going to take a deep dive in today into dealing with ineffective leaders, and that is a often most common challenge that leaders are facing. They're frustrated, they're annoyed, they're wondering what to do to be effective with this person, and often don't know where to turn next. And I've had lots of examples dealing with overconfident leaders. I had one leader that literally told me, I don't want people to think on their own. I don't want people to trust their instincts. I don't want people to, weigh out all the pros and cons and make their best call. I simply want them to think about what I would do and then do that. That's what I want them to do. I don't want them to think about what they want to do. I want them to think about what I want to do. And this person was serious. They meant it. And so that overconfident leader is often very repelling. And we just, in the chat, I just asked some of you why it's so frustrating. And it's a couple of things. One is the person doesn't listen. So when someone doesn't listen to a word that you're saying, doesn't take your input at all, what sort of relationship do you have? How can you possibly feel valued in that dynamic? So what we've done, and again, I'm Ben Fauske, author and coach of the Confident Leader Formula. And we've designed an assessment just for the Confident Leader Formula called the MyConfidence Professional Report, or the MYCON Pro. And today I want to take a deep dive into the report that often gets the most interest, the most intrigue, which is the Convincer Report, which this is the person that struggles with overconfidence. They are driven by moments of accomplishment. And often people struggle working with them because when they see a problem, they see steps from 1 to 27. They're typically right, and they simply want people to follow what they're asking them to do. That's really what they want. And so that makes that very difficult. And we have the 6 confidence profiles here: peacekeeper, friend maker, inquisitor, negotiator, driver, and convincer. And convincer is the far right. And as we've always talked about, you want to be able to move up and down this continuum. You want to be able to lead in all 6 categories. However, most find the convincer most challenging. When I talk to groups and say, which of these 6 profiles is the toughest for you, triggers you, it's this one, because this profile tends to be the know-it-alls, tends to be the show-offs, tends to be the ones who have all the answers. And this group isn't evil. And this is really important. We think maybe over here, this person is, there's something wrong with them and they're evil. They aren't. I've met many wonderful convincers. It's just that they view the world extremely differently. Results matter way more than relationships. So let's look at some of the subtraits. So in this profile, and all these profiles, all 6 of the profiles, there are what we call subtraits. And in the convincer profile, the subtraits that make up the convincer are accomplished, focused, assertive, directive, perfectionistic, and uninfluenceable. And when I started working with Dr. Craig Melkin from Harvard, he wrote a book called Rethinking Narcissism. And the convincers would fit in the folks that some potentially have borderline narcissistic personality disorder. So what does that mean? That means that and they have an addiction to feeling special. So think about someone that you're talking to and they have an addiction to feeling special. So this is the person that you say, oh, my daughter had a great softball game last weekend. And as soon as they're done finishing, you're like, oh, my son invented softball. You're like, okay, great. It's every story reverts back to them, every story, because they have an addiction to feeling special. Now, not all convincers are narcissists. However, all narcissists would be convincers. And so when you look at the traits, let's look at the positive traits first, because again, convincers are not all bad. They bring great value, great insight, great movement, great urgency to a group. The accomplished, focused, assertive, they know what they want in life and they are willing to ask for it. So part of the rest of us that may be further left on the continuum, part of where the frustration comes in is we're often not very good for asking what we want. We don't ask for the promotion we want. We don't ask for the raise that we want. We don't ask for the project that we want. We don't ask the the person that we're attracted to out. You know, we tend to wait, we tend to absorb, we tend to sort of settle in, we tend to wait for the perfect moment, for the perfect opportunity. And so when people, convincers, are very used to just walking in and asking for what they want, it often puts us on our heels. We often don't know what to respond to that. So for example, I was playing golf with a friend of mine, and a person just came up on the first tee. We're about ready to tee off, and they said, do you mind if we go ahead of you? Do you mind if we go up right now? We're ready. Well, we were also ready. We're also going to tee off. But the assertiveness of this person almost just jarred us, and it was clear that they wanted to get off right then and there. And so we kind of went, yeah, I don't care. I guess it doesn't matter. We have nothing we have to get to today. And so they jumped in front of us and teed off. But guess what? We were annoyed for probably the first 2 or 3 holes. Like, who does this person think they are? They just walk in and say, hey, I'm gonna take your tee time from you. However, what happened is that person was simply being assertive. They weren't demeaning to us. They weren't rude to us. They asked for what they wanted, and they got it. And so often we're not used to that, and we get annoyed and frustrated and triggered because we're not used to asking for what we want. We find that's rude or offensive. And then those are the positive traits. They're assertive, and when used for good, I worked with one client who was a convincer, brilliant. He actually invented the patent and the product that the entire organization ran on. He's brilliant, absolutely brilliant leader, and knew what he wanted, asked for it, delivered great results to the organization. However, every single person in the organization was annoyed and had a hard time working with this person. Because when he showed up to meetings, he would simply say, hey, here's the 15 things I need you to do tomorrow. And these are very intelligent people he's basically ordering around. They didn't find value in him. And this is what we did. We had him interview or get feedback from all of his team. And I had a bunch of listening sessions. And people actually didn't hate him like he thought they would. People actually didn't find him to be useless and he should be fired like he thought. They actually found him extremely valuable. The dilemma is he was not able to value others. And in any relationship, when we're not feeling valued, we're typically going to be triggered. And you all know my story. Many times in my career, I did not feel valued from the leaders that I worked with. And I would tell you, I worked with a lot of convincers, and I didn't feel very valued, and I was seeking this validation, and I never really got it. And that leaves you feeling less than. That leaves you feeling unimportant. That leaves you feeling like you don't measure up to this person, like this person thinks they're better than you are. And those are all universal triggers, because our biology is set up in a way that we're designed to know that no one is any better than anyone else. We're all the same. So when someone walks in a room and gives off the feeling that they're better than we are, we instantly react. We don't tell them to their face. We just talk about them behind their back when they leave. That's what we all do with convincers. We never address the issue. We never talk to them directly. Why? Because they're too intense, because we think that they'll come back at us. We think they'll pick on us, that we think we'll become their target. So we just leave them alone and we get quiet. We let them dominate the meeting. But then there's the meeting after the meeting where all the exciting conversations happen. We talk about what an idiot that person is. And that's how the convincer trigger typically happens. However, it's really important to note, convincers don't want people to dislike them. You know, I've met with hundreds of convincers, and every single one, when we take a breath and we get honest, they would all admit, I don't have the relationships that I want in my life. I just don't know how to get them. Many convincers were the kids on the playground that got picked last, that had no friends. They're actually overcompensating for a feeling of underconfidence. 87% of all of us have a bias toward underconfidence. 13% have a bias toward overconfidence. So we want to talk about these two types of convincers because we coach and interact with them very differently. Type 1 is the one who wins the genetic lottery. They're brilliant, they're perfect looking, they have great families, they have great spouses, they have great work, they're very successful, and they just don't know they're that successful. They don't know they're coming across as overconfident. They just believe everyone wishes they were them because most people told them that their whole life. Oh my gosh, I wish I were you. I wish I were you. I wish I were you. You know, the Tom Brady effect, people call it, right? He's seemingly on the outside got everything going for him. And so that person doesn't know they're coming across as overconfident, doesn't know they're coming across as feeling better than you. And typically once that person finds out, hey, you come across as a little overconfident at times, they quickly correct it. They don't want to be that way. They just have had life has come easy for them, but typically there's a cliff at some point. Tom Brady has experienced many of those as well. There's a cliff and there's crisis and there's confidence issues that come up for them at some point, but they didn't know they were behaving in an overconfident manner and quickly correct it. The second form of convincer is the person that's overcorrecting. So they don't feel good about themselves. They feel small, they feel little, they feel insignificant, they feel challenged, they feel not valued. And so people have not invited them into their circle. They've struggled with friendships. So they just say, you know what? I don't need you. I don't need people. I don't need any of this. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take charge on my own. I'm going to create my own life. I'm going to become successful regardless of what anyone thinks about me. And you can't get to me. Your feedback can't hurt me any longer. And that's the adaptation then that moves us down into these gold traits. That turns out, that shows up as uninfluenceable. And it makes perfect sense, right? You reject me long enough, and eventually I don't care what you say. I'm not listening to you. It doesn't matter to me. However, right, and in some ways, that's a healthy response. Like, don't let people get to you. Don't let them rattle you. Don't let other people ruin your day. Some of that's healthy. However, as soon as it's overused, now I don't listen to anyone. You can't get to me. Unless you're higher up in the organization, or unless you're famous, or unless you're a deity, I'm not listening to you. And that's when convincers become ineffective, because now I can't get to that convincer. I can't influence them. I can't provide perspective to them. No matter what I do, they're not listening. They're not budging. They're not adjusting their plan. They're not adjusting what they do. And so now we feel completely incompetent to have a valuable conversation with this person. So those are the overconfidence traits on the bottom, which are directive, perfectionistic, and uninfluenceable. And basically what they're saying is, I know the right way to do it, perfection. I know the perfect way to get this project done. Directive, I just want you to do what I'm telling you to do. And uninfluenceable, no matter what you say to me, you're not going to change my mind. And the dilemma is often they're right. Often their instincts are good, which makes it even more annoying, because then when they win and they're successful and everything turns out, it's like they keep doing that. Why wouldn't they? It's working. So they use that more and more and more to find the results that they want in life, and they accelerate in the results category in their life. However, often their relationships are falling apart around them. They often don't have strong relationships at home. They often don't have strong relationships with friends. They often have big rifts where they'll be really, really close to someone for a period of time, and then all of a sudden they're no longer friends with that person at all, never speaks to them again. And they have the ability to completely write people off and sleep like a baby. We're best friends for 6 years. We get in a huge fight. We're never talk again. I sleep like a baby. I don't care. I don't need to mend that relationship. It doesn't matter to me, which is foreign to the rest of the confidence profiles, because the rest of us want to go back in and mend the relationship and figure out what happened, figure out what went wrong. The convincers don't feel that need. Doesn't make it right or wrong. They just don't feel that need. So what do we do with a convincer? Well, that convincer that I just talked about that I worked with, what we did was I had him define, what do you want in a relationship? How do you value others? What can you do to show up differently to let people know they're valuable? Because I know you value people. I know you do. I know you want better relationships. You've admitted that to me. And when that person makes a relational progress, when they make one step toward being kind or forgiving or understanding or having higher empathy, and they would make one move out of changing their mind based on what something said, I'm always extremely quick to completely validate that perspective. That was awesome. I bet that person really appreciated that. And what happened in this case, the person I coached, he went back to his team and said, I hate the fact that you don't feel valuable. I don't like that. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know the easy answer. And he laughed. He's like, because most of the time I am right. And of course, everyone laughed because he was most of the time right. He's like, I can't, I don't know what to do with this, but I just want you to know I want to get better at valuing you, at listening at you, at partnering with you. We still may end up doing it my way. However, I want you to feel valuable in the process. And they all laughed about it. And they started to have a really rich conversation that we don't hate you. We love your convincer drive to accomplishment. We love how successful our organization is because you're the genius in the room. We love that about you. And we just want to be a part of the journey, right? If you go on vacation with someone and the person lists out every single stop and takes no input from anyone the entire trip, even if it works, it's not that fun. And here's my example of when I went into convincer mode. We're on a family trip to Mount Rushmore. And I'm a planner. When we go on vacation, I plan it. Typically, I plan the hotels and the stops and the excursions and the budget and all that. I love vacation planning. It's one of my favorite pastimes. It gets me excited. So on this trip, we're going to go to Crazy Horse the next day. It's all planned out. It's a great historic monument to check out. And the families, one of the girls, I have 4 daughters. One of them said to my wife and I, hey, what about pool day today? We're at a beautiful hotel in Keystone, South Dakota. And they go, what about a pool day? We got a beautiful pool. It's a beautiful day. And I said, no, I don't have pool day in the agenda. We can sit by a pool at home. We're here. We're going to go to Crazy Horse. And then all of a sudden, the second daughter said, no, you know what? Pool day sounds fun. I'm like, we don't have pool day in the agenda, everybody. Let's get back on course. And then all of a sudden, everyone except me was saying, I'm digging pool day. Of which then I said, we are going to Crazy Horse. We're going to love it. It's going to be a memory you'll never forget. And that's the plan. And one of them said to me, do you actually hear how you sound right now? You sound like a crazy person. We all want pool day. I'm pretty sure we can go to Crazy Horse tomorrow. You need to take a breath. And they were absolutely right. Right? I was in directive, perfectionistic, uninfluenceable in that moment. And I had to take a step back and go back to accomplished, focused, and assertive. What are we trying to accomplish here? We're trying to have a great family vacation. That's what we're doing. It's not about Crazy Horse. It's about spending time together and doing what we love. And so, of course, we had pool day. Pool day was awesome. And then we're on the long drive home. And I said, which I often do, hey, what was your favorite part of the trip, everybody? And guess what it was? It was pool day. They just loved it. We relaxed, we read books, we listened to music, we were on vacation together. That was the point. And to me, that was a great example of when we're interacting with convincers, don't give up. Remind them the purpose, remind them what healthy relationships look like. And in that moment, sometimes you may say, hey, do you see you're not valuing my input right now? Do you see that? Do you recognize that? I don't know if that's what you want. That's what I'm experiencing right now. And then when the convincers are doing well, really affirm it. Say, man, I love the way you showed up in that meeting for our teammate. I love the compassion you had for a person who's struggling on their project. Because convincers, it's not about arguing with them about the tactics or the tasks. It's all about helping them learn or relearn what healthy, safe relationships look like, because they've often never had it modeled. They've never experienced it. They have no idea that they're off-putting to the people they're talking to. They don't know that. And so kindly, gently, remember, often most are recovering from underconfidence. So this presentation of overconfidence is masking the underconfidence. So approach them with some, with some patience and talk about how their behavior is impacting you and what sort of relationship you want. And when we know that in advance, when convincers come at me now, I'm just assuming that they're underconfident, that they're overcoming this underconfident, this rejection that they've had early in their life. I breathe a little, I have patience, and I just get curious. Wow, you seem really intense about this. Wow, this seems frustrating to you. How can I help? And really move it back to relational. Now, am I perfect at this? No. When know-it-alls come at me, I become a know-it-all. When, one-uppers come at me. It's really, really hard for me to be patient and kind. I still go through these cycles. However, now I go through the cycles much faster. So I moved back into the sweet spot of really trying to build a relationship with this person, because you know what? Every single person I've ever interacted with wants a great relationship with the people that matter to them. Every single person wants that. And so this person just has struggled to figure out what that looks like. And it's our role and responsibility as confident leaders and confident coaches to help them find that sweet spot. So thank you for this short deep dive into the Convincer profile. I hope you found it enjoyable. In the MyConfidence professional report, the MYCON Pro Report, all of these sub traits are listed with the definitions and what high and low levels look like for that, along with every profile. So no matter what your profile is, you'll have these. There are 36 total sub traits for these. So if you're interested in learning more about the MYCON Pro assessment, you can go to benfauske.com and learn more about that. And thank you so much for your time.